On this week's episode, we talk about Alicia Fox's continued freakouts, Bo Dallas's Raw debut, a terrible occurrence on Raw, Payback predictions, and more on this edition of Byte That. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 40 of Byte That, the semi-somewhat maybe international professional wrestling podcast, where we talk about the ups and downs of that which we love, which is the world of professional wrestling. My name is Juan Velos. I am from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and as always, I am joined first all the way from Boston, Massachusetts, by Ryan McNulty. Now, Ryan, I gotta ask you, how are you doing after last week's interesting episode?
I'm doing okay. I noticed some interesting edits in the podcast.
What do you mean?
And I don't know, it didn't feel like when I tried to say words, I felt like something was interrupting me, but I think I'm doing better now.
Really? What word was that? Was it?
Yes, that's actually exactly what it was. How did you know?
No, I actually think it was...
Oh, how rude!
I know. Okay, I'm sorry. I couldn't help it. But, by the way, I do also want to welcome the editor of the podcast from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, who has a little bit of interference right now from his cat. So I'm just going to introduce him. He is Keith Poshik. He is Canadian. He's over there dealing with Oliver and his other cats there.
Yeah.
So before we do go on any further, we want to thank each and every one of you for listening and persuade you in checking out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast, where we have reviews, the weekly filler, the cheap seat, which is out this very week talking about CM Punk. You can check out our Twitter, ByteThatCast, where we tweet during Raw and other wrestling events. Check out the podcast every Wednesday on iTunes and Stitcher, and Thursdays on YouTube. Now, we are just a couple of days away from Payback, WWE's next pay-per-view, which is also going to be available on the WWE Network. And just a couple days before, on the last edition of SmackDown, we got a pretty good debut. We got yet another NXT guy who's making his second debut, I guess you could say now. In Bo Dallas, he faced off against Sin Cara, and it was SmackDown, which of course means that he had to debut again on Raw against Sin Cara again. So we've had double exposure. What are you guys thinking about Bo Dallas, Mr. Bo Lever?
I believe that it was a great debut, and I'm leaving it at that.
It's really hard to judge Bo Dallas this early. I feel like the crowd doesn't quite know what to do with him yet. And granted, like I said, it's early. Because when you think back at NXT, it started out where he was a babyface and the crowd just naturally started to hate him. So then his heel character completely played off of that. So now coming into this whole new world.
Oh, God.
That, they don't have that baseline. So people kind of really don't know whether to cheer him or boo him.
Isn't that kind of the point of the next few weeks, though, to build that baseline and then have people slowly understand what Bo Dallas is?
Exactly.
Because
I think
this isn't the Bo Dallas from NXT. You have to remember that. This is a brand new Bo Dallas. He was never really the DDP motivational speaker down in NXT. He was just annoying.
Because I think right out of the gate, he's not someone you just really hate. I think they want it to be something where you kind of over time just grow hatred for this guy.
Exactly. And I mean, he did develop this character in like the last two appearances he had in NXT, so he really didn't have the time to interact with the audience, but we got a good look at his entrance. I would argue his entrance works a lot better in NXT because what they did was that when he got his arms up, it would like reveal Bo Leave, and it would be like directly behind him, you know, where it's supposed to Raw and SmackDown. It's like all the way up there, so if the camera has to pan out, he looks, you know, really tiny on screen. So those little things don't really work out all that well, but I don't know. I don't know if this character will really work all that well, because I was one of, I think, Ryan, you were in the same boat, where we first hated the character on NXT, but we hated him so much, it's like spilled over, and it led us to somewhat liking him, because he was so self-aware. But in here, they're doing the opposite effect. They're already going with that character, without getting that exposure that he had on NXT. So do you guys think that's going to be an issue?
It could be. And to kind of go into what you were saying earlier with, we initially hated him because he was this try-hard baby face, and he just had that face that you want to punch. I mean, let's be honest here. That smile is just...
beautiful.
It infuriates me.
It almost looks like somebody else on the roster, but I can't pinpoint who.
Yeah.
But then, when he actually embraced his character, he recognized how people felt about it and embraced it. You couldn't help but admire how good he was at what he does. And I think eventually, the guy, he's just got the talent. And like I said, he has that face that everyone wants to punch. So there's no way it's not going to work. But obviously these things just take a lot of time.
Yeah, plus the WWE kind of has to go slow, like building this character. You're supposed to hate him over time just because he keeps like hitting that same point over and over. I'm sure they don't want to run into another situation with Bray Wyatt when he debuted and all of a sudden there's a bunch of smarks chanting Husky Harris for no reason.
Exactly. So it is a thing where you really just need to give it a little bit of time. But now let's assume that, people understand the character. At the end of the day, this character, as you mentioned, Ryan, is very reminiscent of DDP. He's almost in that DDP Simon Dean category where it's like...
It was me.
You.
So
I'm sorry.
I was like, I said it.
Well, at some point that I've talked to you, I've talked to you during Raw also, man. Give me a break. I'm sorry. But, he's definitely in that DDP Simon Dean type category where it's like they wrestle for us, for better or worse, that type of character. But, I mean, history has shown that they don't necessarily go all that far. So will this be any different?
In weird ways, though, I think Bo Dallas is already ahead of those people as far as that character goes. Because, once again, it goes back to those little things that are separating the NXT guys from the other guys on the roster. Like, all the Simon Deans did was do the motivational heel speech and then wrestle a match. During his matches, Bo will, go and high-five the crowd and give the thumbs up. It's those little things that just really add a ton to the character.
So, having said that, to summarize this little portion, are you excited to see where Bo Dallas develops? Or do you think that he's sort of just gonna stay here while he's offered sort of a spot? We've mentioned that the roster is pretty packed right now. Or do you see him as, by the end of year, he could go somewhere up?
Well, I was sort of going to jump into something similar to that anyway. I really don't see him climbing to the top of the card at least anytime soon. Because even though he was sort of like one of the premier main event guys in NXT, we got to kind of take a look. He just doesn't have the look of a main eventer. His body type... I know we say this about defending Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, but I would consider them in far better shape, even though I'm not one to talk about being in good shape, but for a wrestler,
But even though you say that, isn't the character kind of built to be a champion in a way? Just that arrogant, I achieved my goal.
Champion, yes.
Yeah.
World champion?
That's a championship.
I mean, it's interesting because it's the type of character where it doesn't matter about the match, because I'll agree, even when he was NXT champion, I could never buy him as a champion. It wasn't until the character became self-aware that people aren't necessarily liking him that I was like, oh, okay, so he's champion because we don't want him to be champion. So that sort of justified it for me. So he could be a monster heel, as a champion, be it at the top or with the, an Intercontinental Championship US, but it's so tied to the crowd reaction live. It's not even like the people that are watching on TV, because this type of character, you need that direct interaction. Plus, it's also going to be interesting how he interacts with other superstars. It opens the opportunity for him to talk to guys like Zack Ryder, Dolph Ziggler, like these people that maybe we've heard be frustrated. How do you interact with that? And I also want to bring up a pretty good idea that I read online. I want to get your feedback. I forget who wrote this on Squirt Circle. How amazing would it be if his finishing move was a submission move, but he will yell to the guy, "Don't give up. You can hold on." That would be amazing.
That would be brilliant.
That is a good idea. And I guess to what you were saying, how whether or not possibly see him as a world champion in the future. I mean, you could look at Daniel Bryan and see the crowd reactions he was getting were so positive that you had no choice but to eventually make him world champion. So on the other side, if Bo Dallas is getting more heat than anybody else, then maybe he deserves to be champion. So we'll see what happens.
My case for Bo Dallas being champion would resemble something of like Kurt Angle circa 2000, how he was just that super heel champion that everybody just wanted that title taken right off of him and him just beaten the hell clean out of. I think that's the type of role that Bo Dallas could fit perfectly. And yes, I just compared him to Kurt Angle.
I'd quickly love to point out how we're talking about somebody's debut, and we love to just like world think forward. Champion. We're already talking world champion, ladies and gentlemen.
I've been saying it for months. Bo Dallas is world championship material. This ain't new, sweetheart.
I'm not sold yet.
You should be. Ryan, you should believe.
True.
Believe.
True. Another person that's trying to make believers out of us, and I would say she's doing a pretty good job, has been Alicia Fox. We talked about her last week a little bit. This week we saw her. I think she hit it out of the park. You know, she's developed this essentially crazy type of character. I don't know if you guys saw Backstage Fallout. You know, they continue that storyline there. So it's like she's going all over the place, drinking soda at ringside, yelling at fans. And I would argue that on Raw, she got essentially the biggest reaction. I mean, obviously she was directly interacting with the crowd, which certainly helps. But now that we've seen this character for more than a week, what's your second take on that? Ryan, first, then I want to take it to Keith.
Well, my first take is that if I'm standing in the front row and I'm holding a soda, I will hide it from Alicia Fox. But my second point is, I'm happy to see her, you know, getting this reaction and doing well, and it is certainly effective. I mean, I feel like she has, for someone who's been on the roster as long as she has, she's done a really good job at making herself relevant again in a very short amount of time. And I think the freakouts she has, like, you know, when I'm watching them, like, you're just like, what the hell is she going to do next? Because she surprises you with one thing or another, whether it's, you know, messing around with the poor, you know, stage crew who, you know, work their ass off, and then gets flipped over a barrier and gets a wedgie. But it's surprising what she's doing, and like, you really don't know what she's gonna do, and I think that's the key element to her success and her great reactions.
I think they have to be really careful with Alicia Fox, though, considering this is the same company that has a Be a Star campaign. She's kind of being a bully and giving
Stephanie
people...
McMahon?
Yeah, but Stephanie McMahon isn't giving Brie Bella a wedgie. That's like...
Yeah, but then what about the Ryback bully thing? It doesn't matter. It's a...
Yeah, that's a whole nother
True.
thing, because he can easily justify that, but like, hey, you see this type of character? This is us showing you what a bully what a bully is like, and how you could stop them through, you know, speaking arrangements or something. So I wouldn't be worried about that, because I mean, we have a freaking demon, you know, that's essentially throwing people off and off of wheelchairs and all that, man. Like, really?
Don't spill somebody's soda, but tombstone him 3 times. Yeah, that's cool.
Exactly.
We gotta just throw Be a Star out the window and like let's just think about the show.
True enough. Know? It is interesting, though, that Alicia Fox is out Rybacking Ryback right now.
True.
She is. She's also getting on Raw.
No, and I think it's the argument of how do you make the most out of your TV time, because progressively throughout that segment, at first people were kind of like, cool, she's doing something different, but you saw the crowd get more into it. When she got the soda, you know, I was checking out the Twitter feed and everybody was just focused on her, and if it was a superstar, a male superstar, people wouldn't see that as, you know, something else. But to see so many people together talk about that one specific diva at the same time was pretty impressive, and I applaud her for doing the best she could there.
See what you're saying there, and I like your point about if a male wrestler had done this, it wouldn't be looked at as a big deal at all, which I don't know if this is by design or not, but that just kind of shows how low the bar is for divas, and that all you know, you can do something just a little bit different and it stands out a lot because we very rarely see anything outside of the 2-minute Diva match window.
See, but I think you can compare it to the whole male side of things because it's kind of really what's going on with all these new characters coming from NXT. You have all these guys that we've kind of seen and they're kind of doing the same thing in different ways. And then someone comes along from NXT that's just so different that they completely change and shake everything up, and they're this interesting character.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's sort of getting a reset switch. I mean, if you look at, Alicia Fox, I think that's the best example. And the fact of the matter is, she didn't win that match. So it goes to show you the importance that nobody cares if she won a match or not. Nobody's talking about Emma, who, you just brought up NXT. And hey, I love me some Emma. She's awesome. But
I was happy she won.
Yeah,
that was
me
nice.
too. One thing that I did find interesting in this match, I don't know if you guys caught this or not, but Emma was calling spots. And I'm curious why that is. Like, I wonder what that is, like, behind the scenes. Like, I heard she was yelling, like, slap me, and stuff, and it was really audible.
Oh, yeah.
I would think, sometimes even the more experienced wrestler will let the less experienced call the moves to kind of help them learn. I don't know. I mean, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but I've definitely heard stories from wrestlers on various interviews that they'd be like, oh, it was an honor. Like I wrestled this great wrestler, and they had me call the moves. It's like a learning experience.
Exactly. I remember hearing Jericho and other wrestlers talk about that, and at the same time, it's like a test. It's like, oh, can you do this? Because it's like a lot of people make fun of Alicia Fox, but given the right opportunity as a wrestler, I'm not talking about the diva. So I'm stripping away the character. When you see her on NXT and all that, you see that she's capable of doing a lot of stuff. And it's great that I would argue, agreeing with Keith, thanks to NXT, I think that the Divas just saw this incredible boom. However, I do want to sort of take a quick, just a couple of minutes into Paige without going too much into Payback, but how odd is it that we are getting all this character development for Alicia Fox, but essentially Paige is out of the picture, even though they're facing each other at Payback?
A character can only be as good as the person that it's feuding with, right? So by building up Alicia Fox, they're building up Paige at the same time. Because now if Paige comes back or comes out and beats Alicia Fox at Payback, she gets built up at that same time.
I agree. I mean, why is everyone laughing? I don't get it. But anyway.
Yeah, I don't know why you're laughing either.
No, because I knew the answer to that. I just wanted to somebody. I wanted that. Just I was like, oh, I manipulated your ass to say that. Yeah.
You're only as good as your foil, so I figured they have to make a worthy adversary. But at the same time, you kind of need both. But you can only do so much at once.
Exactly.
But I would like to see the anti-diva thing eventually. We love to rush into things. I just want to see it eventually. That's all I'm saying.
The slow burn.
Although, funnily enough, I mean, what Alicia Fox is doing right now is very anti-diva. So, if anything, it's even harder for Paige to do that.
Well, I don't know. She's kind of acting like a spoiled, like, princess, I guess you could say.
Like the word diva in its purest form, almost.
Yes.
True. But I do want to take this to another question, though, because I wasn't really sure that she was going for the crazy character, but in the Backstage Fallout, which you can watch on WWE's YouTube channel, they almost did a deja vu thing. Instead of AJ, it was Alicia Fox, where Byron Saxton was, talking to her, insinuating that they were calling her crazy, and then even she went, "Oh, crazy? Other people are calling me crazy," and I was like, whew. So do we need the crazy diva to be the top heel? Is that the thing? Like, to get over, you need to be crazy as a diva? I don't know. It just seemed odd to me that AJ is out of the picture, and now this comes in.
I think you kind of just blew my mind. Has every top heel diva always been crazy? I mean, think about like
Victoria,
Mickie James, Victoria.
Trish Stratus or Lita were never crazy.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
that's true. Trish Stratus. No, he's right. Trish Stratus was just like the super bitchy, character. She wasn't crazy, so I will give you that.
No, there are a couple, but if you look down history, You know, we can go down to the Luna Vachons. You know, you can go pretty far back, and there's a couple of them that
you can go
like
to
that.
Sensational Sherry,
Exactly.
really.
Well, I think it's just a very identifiable trait, and I don't mean to sound sexist, but
we're treading
I feel
thin
this
water.
is
You don't mean to sound sexist, but you are.
no, but listen, okay, this is a primarily male demographic that watches. And I think most men can identify with a crazy ex-girlfriend or something. So, you know, I think I'm fair in this assessment.
This is where if I had a soundbite that would say "justified," I would definitely play that right now. So good job on that, Ryan. I'm very proud of you. So having said that, why don't we go back a little bit and bring you this week's tweet of the week.
That's right, it's Tweet of the Week time, and this week's tweet is brought to you by good old KFAB News at KFAB News. It's a great site, you know, they give you the wrestling news, so controversial and just so real that nobody else will cover it. Give them a look-see. I highly recommend it. But this week's Tweet of the Week is, why did Dallas put on deodorant? To make his B.O. leave. Comedy gold.
Tweet of the week. Tweet of the week.
Wow.
So thank you, Keith, for that somewhat maybe amazing tweet of the week. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter at Byte That Cast. And if you're funny, or even if Keith is just bored, he's just looking around and he likes your name, you could maybe somewhat maybe be the tweet of the week. Now, before we go on any further, I do want to sort of bring it back to the YouTube channel. Remember, you can check us out, youtube.com/Byte That Cast. We do have a lot of good stuff going on there. We're trying to get, you know, a kind of a schedule going on, so I want to bring that up to you right now. So every second and fourth Tuesday of the month, you will be getting a brand new cheap seat, which is going to be my editorial. So I will be talking about some of the popular situations, including CM Punk being gone. We're going to be talking about chair shots to the head, why do we like wrestling, and so many other topics, which, by the way, if you have a suggestion, you can tweet us or send us a message in any of the videos on the YouTube channel. Remember, the podcast is available every Thursday on the YouTube channel, and on every Saturday you get Ryan's show, which is the weekly filler, filling you in on all of the latest news we weren't able to cover in the podcast. So with that being said, let's go back to the Divas. You know why? Because I gotta say it, WWE is doing an excellent job promoting the Divas. As we mentioned in the past couple of weeks, they're getting not just one, they're getting like 2 segments per show, and it certainly showed how they can actually have a Divas division that don't only have one storyline, and they're actually not clashing with each other. And Ryan, I know you've had a bit of a headache. You had a bit of a mental breakdown on Raw. You cried a little bit. So I want to ask you, you know, are you doing good? What's going on?
Yeah, I cried. I seriously
Call to
did.
me, Ryan.
Okay, I am going to call to you because I'm going to throw this to you because maybe you haven't heard this yet. But let me just try and see if you can make sense of this. If Eva Marie's a heel, then why is Nikki Bella being her manager when she's supposed to be face? Is Eva Marie a face now? Then why is Summer Rae facing her, who's supposed to be a face? But she's a heel on Total Divas, but she's a face now, right? Because Eva was acting like a heel and she was getting heat blowing those kisses. And then Layla and Fandango come out, who are supposed to be heels, right? Getting the best of Summer Rae, but who's supposed to be a face, but then she's screaming and pouting like a heel. So tell me, what the heck is going on?
I'm in fetal position right now. Help me. So that just happened.
Yeah. I don't know. The best way I could describe it is Summer Rae came out last week and made out with somebody else's boyfriend, and all of a sudden she's a face. None of it makes sense. Why would it make sense this week?
It's like during Raw, I told Ryan, I always tell him this. It's like, Ryan, why are you applying logic? Although I will say, this is a pretty great extreme. I mean, we're saying, like, people are being heel and face in the same match. It's not that they're being neutral. Like, they are flat out just selectively being the specific character, giving a situation. So it's I don't know what to make out of it.
Not only that, but we're kind of skipping over the most important / craziest thing that happened in this segment. Eva Marie won a match. Yo, Eva Marie won a 1-on-1 match. That's crazy.
By the way, I need to nitpick this, but did you notice something? I'm just going to give you a little bit of a question. Did you notice something between both Diva matches on Raw? Anything? Think about how they both ended. Think about that. Both ended
a roll-up?
Yeah, both ended in roll-ups. I was like, really? I mean, on the same show, it's like, way to just...
Dude, that's how they all end, man.
Yeah.
It's like every Divas match has a 50% chance of ending in a roll-up.
Come on.
I think the craziest thing that happened in those matches was, to go back to the Alicia Fox Emma one, was that Alicia Fox did a scissors kick on the apron, and then Emma kicked out of that. Usually, like, there hasn't been a Divas matches in years that somebody has kicked out of something like that. That's crazy.
Oh, maybe the gravity, because, it's the same way, like, when wrestlers go up ladders, like, there's just this gravity just freaking goes down on you. Maybe they actually turned that down. I thought that there was, like, a knob backstage on Raw or something, so they turned that down, so now everybody's magically a little bit stronger. Justified!
Apparently the arena was built by Capsule Corp. But,
Justified.
to jump back into, okay, we talked enough about Alicia Fox. I want to go back to this Summer Rae situation of what are they trying to accomplish, because nobody knows what the hell is going on, because it doesn't seem like they know what to do with anyone involved. What do you think they're trying to accomplish here?
I just think they're kind of in a situation with Summer Rae for the next couple of weeks, because she's a heel on Total Divas, but she's going to be a face, and now they have to promote the movie, but there might be a little bit of overlap because Total Divas is still going on, and then they'll have to do that, and it's just kind of a poopy situation.
Yeah, it's like I was saying last week. I think the Total Diva situation caught up to them, where before they were like, we can work around stuff and justify it, but it's gotten to the point where it's just like, okay, doesn't matter how hard you try, you can tell Total Divas is recorded way in advance before Raw, and it's really biting you in the butt now.
I mean, that match was a reaction to Total Divas. It was the whole, like, oh, they tried to be a tag team, and now it didn't work out, so now they're fighting, and then they just tried to shoehorn the whole Fandango thing into that.
I think the best part about Total Divas is when the Divas act like it's this huge deal that's gonna happen, like, oh, I get to be a ring announcer, and then it's on Superstars, and you realize that nobody cares.
Well, it's one of those situations where they probably don't expect the average wrestling fan to really care about that, but the casual one will be like, whoa, she's announcing on Superstars. I mean, think about the name. You think of this huge main event.
Yeah. They're superstars.
Superstars.
But
super crazy.
I've been saying it for weeks. Whoever cuts those montages together of the Diva segments from Raw and SmackDown, that guy deserves some sort of award, because man, is he good.
They're showing, like, crowd shots from WrestleMania 30 and stuff.
Exactly.
Oh, man. No, props to the editing team for doing an amazing job with that. But yeah, I think to summarize, it's a really interesting situation that, honestly, I don't expect it to go anywhere. I think they're just trying to see how much juice they can just squeeze out of the situation. And I mean, Fandango's in a pretty... oh, you're immature children. And Fandango's in a pretty tough spot. I mean, he's in a very stiff situation right now.
Oh, you immature child.
You know what? I will be the adult here. Seriously, though, I do want to bring it back to Raw now, where something pretty messed up happened. Honestly, I thought it was uncalled for. I almost turned the channel away when this happened. There was a one-on-one match between Drew McIntyre and El Torito, who is the manager, the mascot of Los Matadores, I guess you could say. And during the course of the match, Hornswoggle proceeded to rip the tail off of El Torito. I mean, of course, I'm surprised PETA's not on this or something. Coming back.
Just unacceptable.
It was ridiculous. Seriously.
Be a star, Hornswoggle. Be a star.
I don't know why he did that, but returning from commercial break, Michael Cole and JBL were obviously very concerned.
Rightfully so.
The medics, I know. The medic was trying to reattach the tail. It was put on ice. Luckily, I guess the situation was resolved, so El Torito does have his tail back, I believe. But then there was the announcement that, honestly, I don't even see how this is possible. At Payback, they will now have a mask versus hair match, and I mean, you would literally behead El Torito. So just how could they even allow this? I don't get it.
No, I think this is just a disgusting thing. And, we watch a lot of wrestling and we always say, how extreme is too extreme. And I think we certainly saw the line being crossed last night. I'm sick to my stomach. I honestly think Hornswoggle shouldn't even be getting a match at Payback, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he should be suspended
without pay.
Even fired, because it's to dismember an active member of the roster is just outright disgusting.
Exactly. There's children in that audience. Children. They had to witness that with their eyes. And it's unacceptable.
So having said all this, that match is taking place on Payback. Now, how could the WWE allow this? Should there be a boycott movement? I mean, the same way we've had a yes movement, there should absolutely be like a fire Hornswoggle or boycott Payback. Is there any remedy that you think would be justified given the situation?
Despite this situation, El Torito, he's coming back full swing into this match. And I think as wrestling fans, we should all stand behind him. We should watch the match and we should cheer him on, because that is all we can do.
Remember, you can, of course, watch this match. It's going to be part of the pre-show for Payback this Sunday. My concern is, of course, as I mentioned earlier, it is a mask versus hair match. I don't know at which point they thought it was a mask, so potentially we're watching murder being committed in Paybacks. So please, everyone, support El Torito, support his cause, and let's prevent the murder of a little boy. Please.
Ole!
Please. I'm laughing out of happiness now, because it's like, I do believe that El Torito can strive to be successful at Payback, which is available.
Successful?
Well, yes, he can win the match. He can strive to be successful, man. He wants to win. He wants to jump the top of the card on Payback. And having said that, why don't we get right down to Payback? So that is the kickoff. So presuming we will not witness murder and Torito wins, can we agree that we will see a bald Hornswoggle in that match, post-match?
Yes, and I think by getting his head shaved, he's getting off easy.
If you ever said to me, show me your bald Hornswoggle, I would call the police.
What?
Oh my god.
So, having said that, this is a thing now, apparently. I do apologize. That's my gimmick now on the show. So there are multiple matches. There are a total of 6 confirmed matches for Payback. I do want to sort of jump into a couple of ones that we brought up. So the match between Paige versus Alicia Fox for the Divas Championship. Who do you expect to come out the winner, given Alicia Fox's recent rise as this top heel, if you will?
I'm not so sure it's going to happen, but I'd actually really like to see Alicia Fox win the championship. I think it's always better to build a face when they're chasing the title. So I would give it to Alicia Fox. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not.
I would say Paige would be better for almost that exact reason, because if Alicia Fox loses, she'll kind of fall probably down this crazier rabbit hole, and then her character will just keep building and building because of it.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Keith. I think that given Alicia Fox's situation, her losing only benefits the craziness of the character. Plus, it gets Paige over, assuming that the live crowd will react to the recent character that Alicia Fox has developed. So moving on to another match, we saw Sheamus and Cesaro be involved during Raw. Sheamus came out during a match, and Cesaro faced RVD for what was the 5th time to sort of build their match.
Something like that.
So who do you expect to come out the winner in the United States Championship match between the King of Swing and the King of Extreme for 2 weeks, and no longer reference to that, and Sheamus?
As much as I'd love to see Cesaro win, last year, a Paul Heyman guy won a title at Payback. And we all know how that went.
I forgot his name.
Okay. In this match, I don't know. This is kind of a tricky situation because Sheamus is pretty new to getting that United States Championship, and he generally does not lose a lot. And then we've got this, newly Paul Heyman guy, Cesaro. So you would think that they would want to sort of build him up, but I'm going to actually say Sheamus retains. Cesaro was US champ before. He's kind of been there, done that, and I think it's going to be an excellent match, but I do see Sheamus retaining.
Yeah, I will agree. I do see Sheamus retaining, and I will also go out on a limb and say that this may be the match of the night because Sheamus is a brawler type. Cesaro can definitely go toe-to-toe with a guy like that. I think it'll be interesting, the possibilities of Cesaro swinging a bigger guy like Sheamus. The possibilities are endless for this match, but I don't see Cesaro winning. However, I don't see him losing just flat out clean. So maybe he almost
Agreed.
won, but something happened. Maybe a mistake or Sheamus caught him off guard and broke kick. Something like that just to keep Cesaro looking strong. Now, moving over to another championship of similar prestige is the Intercontinental Championship match between current champion Bad News Barrett and RVD Rob Van Dam, and that was a terrible impersonation. Who do you expect to be the victor or Connor of this match?
Oh my god. Well, I give this match the Iconopop I don't care of the night.
I love it.
I want Bad News Bear to retain. I think that's going to happen. And RVD, man, I'm not feeling him anymore. I don't know what it is, but I'm digging Bad News Barrett. I fully expect him to keep the belt.
Yeah, I think Bad News Barrett is going to win this one. As far as RVD goes, it just kind of feels like the exact same thing that happened when he returned last time, just with the United States title instead of the Intercontinental. He goes, he almost wins it, then his contract runs out, then he leaves again, and then, yeah.
Yeah, I am agreeing with both of you 100%. RVD, it's like he's doing the same things he's done in the past, but it's like it's because of that same reason at the same time that I really don't care if he's here or not. I don't think he's contributing anything. His matches have been good, but it's like, okay, so what else? Why are you here considering...
Only so much you can do in the span of 90 days at a time.
Exactly. Because the WWE just isn't going to do a strong commitment with him if he keeps leaving and going and leaving and going. I say that, but Brock Lesnar beat the streak, so...
Yeah, but Brock Lesnar is a whole different situation.
He's also on a yearly contract.
Yes.
True. That's true.
So for that reason, I do see Bad News Barrett coming out the winner. Plus, the man has been picking up a lot of steam, and I said this about a month ago, I am just so happy that he is in this situation where people are getting behind him, whether they like him or hate him, because the man has struggled so hard ever since his NXT days to really have a character that defined him. So to see that is awesome. Now, I want to take a pause from the matches because as we saw on Raw, there was a possibility that D-Bry would have to surrender the WWE World Heavyweight Championship to Stephanie McMahon post-surgery. But now, as we saw, we're actually getting a segment, not a match, in this pay-per-view where we will find out if it'll actually happen or not. So, what will happen?
We have the situation where if he doesn't surrender the title, then Brie Bella is fired. So that is the situation where I see that Bryan ultimately will have to surrender the title. They wanted to push it to the Payback pay-per-view because they're not going to have a world title match. But hey, now that we got the network, I don't think WWE is as worried about that because they have their subscriber base still. I think ultimately, like I said, he's going to have to surrender it because it looks like he's probably going to be out for at least a couple of months.
See, I want to think that, but at the same time, it feels weird with the whole ultimatum. Like, maybe he's not, and then this gives Brie Bella a couple months, or an opportunity to take a couple of months off type thing.
I don't know. I think that I will agree with Ryan, and we were talking about this during Raw. This gives WWE the great accidental opportunity to further the whole yes movement. Why? Because when a face champion, is at the top of the food chain of the company, it's like the only way you can go is down. Now, if he is forced to be stripped of the championship, because of, his now wife and all that, it gives him a lot of hunger when he comes back, and it gives him a lot of momentum that he otherwise wouldn't have had for his next match when he comes back.
It's back to the
exactly.
chase.
Yeah, you've convinced me, and on that point, I am going to make a prediction, and next week I'll probably be saying I told you so. Bryan isn't going to say, he's not going to give the title back. They're going to fire Brie, and then Stephanie is going to strip Bryan of the title, because you notice how they've been saying they don't want to, because that'll make Bryan a martyr. That's how he gains all this momentum back when he comes back.
It would be nice to actually see a lose-lose situation where it's like, you know what, we're firing her and you're being stripped, because, that would add fuel to the fire, and it would definitely
It'd make
anger
it
him
red
a lot
hot.
more. Yeah,
and Stephanie would be a monster heel from it.
Exactly, so it's a full-on, why isn't this happening right now? It better happen Sunday now. I'm pumped for this. I'm
calling it.
We will talk next week and see where that goes. So,
yeah.
Now the next match is the ongoing feud between John Cena and Bray Wyatt, which we have consistently talked about in the podcast. It will be a last man standing match, and as we saw on Raw, Cena's down for the 10 count. Usually when these things tend to happen, the person losing on Raw tends to be the person winning at the pay-per-view. So will this be the fate that Bray Wyatt suffers?
After this week's segment with Bray Wyatt and Cena, I think John Cena's going to win. And the weird thing is, I'm kind of okay with it. Because they kind of exposed that whole Bray Wyatt's getting a little too big for himself. He's kind of getting this ego around him with the whole world in his hands and thinking that he's a god and that kind of stuff. And then John Cena came out, cut a promo, and kind of humbled him. So maybe by John Cena winning at Payback, this kind of humbles Bray Wyatt and continues this character development.
I also fully expect John Cena to win this. I think they gotta just keep trading wins. And I think this is gonna go to a sort of best of 5 with the final match being at SummerSlam. So it's now Cena's turn to sort of get that win. And, momentum is on his side to win this. And I think that's how you gotta continue the story, like Keith's saying. You gotta have the opposite angle now where Bray Wyatt is no longer in the advantageous spot and he's fighting back.
And I believe we continue to be in agreement. I think this is the problem of us knowing each other for over a decade. Yeah, I agree completely. It's if Bray Wyatt wins, you're just clarifying the things he's stating. And then it's like, I think it will be a much bigger hurdle or pain for him when he eventually loses. Whereas if John Cena wins now, it's sort of a wake-up call. It's like, okay, so I got to replan because this whole, singing thing isn't working because he just beat me. So now I need to figure out another strategy.
I should wrestle instead of singing.
Exactly.
And dancing.
That is also a possibility. So getting down to what could be the main event? I don't know if... Actually, beforehand, which do you think will be the main event? The last man standing match or the tag elimination?
It has to be the tag elimination. I don't think that it's even a question, in complete honesty.
I agree.
Oh, okay.
I said it. I said it while he was talking.
Okay. I will also agree with that. I love you guys.
God.
No. I'm sorry, listener land.
You know what? I'm turning heel. Everything, I'm just going to flip it. I'm going the other way. And I'm betting like one.
Somebody throw some salt in this too.
I'm betting $1 million. So it's main event time now. We will be having Evolution take on The Shield in a no-holds-barred elimination tag team match. The Shield tends to do pretty good. I don't know. I think in these type of matches, they do pretty good job, so I'm pumped for this. Who's going to come out on top and why?
I honestly have no idea who's going to win this match. This is a good build-up for that exact reason, because you want to think, yeah, the Shield's going to come out on top. But in order to do that, they need to pin Randy Orton, Batista, and more importantly, Triple H needs to get pinned in order for that to happen. And that's craziness.
I think Evolution is going to win this one because even though we all thought this was going to be short term, I also see this going longer as well. And like Keith makes an excellent point, are all 3 members of Evolution going to get pinned in the same night?
They have to. It's elimination.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think there's no chance in hell that all 3 of them are getting pinned.
But let's go back to Raw, how they're talking about this whole ending thing. Like, they're saying that this is going to be the end of Evolution or the end of the Shield. Batista's potentially going away, right? So it would be the end of Evolution because of it.
I'm still saying Evolution wins this.
Yeah, I think this is a tricky situation because I don't believe that Triple H will be pinned up until SummerSlam or, wherever this takes us. That's when that pinfall is going to happen. I'll be very surprised if it does. So Evolution has to win. Now, I definitely don't see this just being another match. I see this as Batista's get well, come back once your whole promotional tour thing is done. Because it's like, I could see like Randy gets pinned, but then like Triple H is led down by the way Batista left or something. Something's got to happen where this is slowly crumbling, and maybe at the next pay-per-view on Raw, something happens that we're like, okay, so this is shifting. Now it's Roman Reigns, Triple H or something. Because, Batista's leaving soon apparently, so, how long is he going to be here?
Exactly. I still think Evolution's going to win despite Batista leaving, and like we've said, it's no holds barred, which means it's gotta be pins. There's no DQs. You can't have Triple H hit someone with a sledgehammer and then he's pulled out so he doesn't have to get pinned. Everyone has to get pinned unless they want to do some funky thing where someone gets thrown off a stage or something and is just out of commission.
See, I disagree with you guys though. I feel like the Shield has to win this one. I don't know, I just can't see it any other way. But I just can't get over that question in my head, like, okay, so let's play hypotheticals for a minute. Who would pin Triple H if one of the members of the Shield is going to end up pinning Triple H?
It would have to be Roman Reigns. I don't see any other way. Although the problem with that would be, it's like, if you want to savor that for when they inevitably do face off, then it's like weird. But then if anybody else pins him, it's like, I just don't see it happening. I'll be very surprised if I would rather go with Ryan's scenario of like Triple H is triple powerbomb somewhere, by like tables or something, and he's out. He's the COO, whatever. He called it quits. He cares more about his chief executive role, something.
Yeah, I agree. I think you sort of spoil a SummerSlam main event if you let him get pinned by Reigns at the pay-per-view, which is why I don't see him getting pinned. Or they could do some scenario where all of a sudden the Shield dominates this match and there's still 2 of them left, and maybe they do some double team move and they're both on top of him, pinning him down or something like that, where they kind of have those team pins or something. But Triple H isn't getting pinned.
What about the possibility of Batista turning on Randy Orton and Triple H?
There's been no tease. Honestly, I think Batista should have teased that beforehand.
You gotta,
but is it?
You gotta tease before you please, man. You know the rules.
I hate you, but maybe wouldn't that be a great swerve though? Batista turns on Triple H.
That would just
Triple H fires him, and then that's how Batista goes away.
I don't know. That's
cheap.
That seems like something TNA would do. I don't know.
Man, you're just taking shots everywhere today.
I'm sorry. I know. See, I'm a gunslinger today.
I can tell. I was going to make a comment, but be very offensive towards you, so I will not do that, sir, because I love you.
Oh, you mean that's the only thing he's shooting these days?
Pretty much.
All right.
Tell that to the tissues in my trash barrel.
Oh, okay.
Cut that out, please.
No, do not cut that out. Do not cut that out. That is your call.
I'll see.
So, Payback is this Sunday. We will be talking about it on next week's episode. It's going to be an interesting one. I think that we won't necessarily be surprised by most of the results, with the exception of the main event. But I do think that we will be surprised with the matches. I think there'll be tremendous matches. There will be winners. There will be losers at WWE Payback. So with that being said, Ryan, what do you got for us?
What do I got? Well, there is one thing I've got, and that is thank you for watching this week's edition of Byte That. And before you go, I somewhat maybe would like to remind you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast. As Juan mentioned before, he just uploaded The Cheap Seat, where he talks about the CM Punk situation, and we will continue to get more editions of The Cheap Seat twice a month. Also, you can always check the weekly filler every Saturday, where I cover several headlines that week in wrestling. And also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at ByteThatCast. We tweet during Raw, pay-per-view events, and all week long. And don't forget, you can also find this show not only Thursdays on YouTube, but also on iTunes and Stitcher by searching Byte That. So once again, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
All right, it's time for this week combo breaker. It's the tweet of the week, and yeah, just nope. I don't like that one.
Okay, after show thing.
End of the show.